All right. Well, welcome everybody to our Talk to the Animals Zoom here with Viv Adcock from Australia. And I am Suzy Godsey, and I am currently in Rome, so at the Facilitators Training for Access Consciousness. So that's what's happening. And yeah, I also actually just right off the bat wanted to welcome. See, I turn German when I say that. I wanted to welcome Monika Perlinger. She is one of our other Talk to the Animals facilitators around the world. So there's literally just three of us at the moment. So if you guys are interested in becoming one of that, please, we're not going to go through this today, like what all is required, mainly because we don't know ourselves yet totally what all is required. We're doing it basically on a one, anyway, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, there's only three of us right now, and that's the point. So Monika is one of us. Anyway, I just wanted to say that right off the bat and introduce Monika to you guys. And she's been facilitating in German. So if you are interested, and she can also facilitate in English, but she has been doing classes in German. So if you want to know more about that, please let us know. Hey, so here I am. Viv, what are we going to talk about today? What do we want to start off with? What do we want to kick this off with?
Yeah, I think one of the questions I get asked a lot is, well, what do I get out of Talk to the Animals? It's such a different topic for people. A lot of people who aren't into animals are kind of like, well, I'm not interested in animals, so what's the point? And it's like, well, I see animals as ambassadors for awareness. It's like they're contributing to it. They are communicating in their own unique way. And whether it's a wild animal, whether it's the birds in the back garden, whether it's your dog, or Suzy's done some work on safari places in South Africa. It's like every animal has something to contribute to us that is very unique and very different. And so to tap into the animal kingdom I found the most wild and wondrous journey, because it is literally, you cannot come to conclusion about anything. And for me, it's allowed me to embody the tools of access consciousness more and more. So yeah, I think for people that, mostly we get people that are interested in animals, but I have had people come that, they're not that interested, but they actually seem to get more out of the class, which was ironic. When they came in with more points of view, maybe, or less, who knows, but to see the transformation that they went through, having this acknowledgement that animals are so much more than, I think we ever acknowledge, that we can appreciate, that we can receive from. So, I would love to talk a bit about that. And something I mentioned to Suzy was, look, some of the experiences that her and I, maybe Monika, you'd be more than happy, we welcome you to join in too, with experiences that either you've had or you've seen people have in classes with, real life experiences, because people go, yeah, right, animal communication, Dr. Dolittle, but when it actually happens in front of your eyes, you are literally, it blows you away. It is quite astounding. So that's my take so far.
Well, one thing I would like to add to that is that, when people come to these classes and recognize that really what we're doing is we're speaking to energy. This is not about translating animal speak into our language. This is really becoming more aware of an energetic communication that goes on between all things. So it's really not limited to animals and people. It really goes much further. And people have often commented that their relationship to their spouse has gotten better after this class, or they had more communication with their children that was way clearer to them because of this class. So, animal communication is not about just receiving that awareness, but really recognizing that you have that capacity all the time. And it's just something that's been buried and that has been atrophied, but in a way it's still there. And we just are going to help you revive it in a way with these classes. But it's not really so much about come to class and you're going to revive it. It's really more, please acknowledge you already have it. And with that, you can revive it too. So you don't ever have to come to class, but please recognize that you do have the capacity to communicate with energy all the time. And that's really what this is about, in a roundabout way. But yes, I know, Viv, you were saying that about, you know, like what is it when people actually have this aha moment when something goes on. And I think it's always fun when, you know, you're connecting with an animal and then they immediately show you some kind of response. And I had this lady one time that I was working with, and her dogs had gotten into a fight, and I was a dog walker at the time, and her dogs were in my group of dogs, and she didn't tell me before that they've had really bad fights before. So they got into a fight on my walk, and I had to bring them both to the vet, which wasn't so much fun. So it was a really bad fight. And so I went to her house, and I said, you know, after all of this was said and done, and so like a week later or so, I was at her house, and her dogs were trained really well. So training, by the way, doesn't mean that you have a nice dog, okay? You can be a very, very polite person, and you can know how to eat properly, and you can still be an asshole. The same is true for a dog, okay? Just because they're really well trained doesn't mean that they're nice dogs. But they were really well trained. And so when she put them in a sit stay or in a down stay, they would not move. Like, they were laying there, and that was the end of that. And they were just like, they would know that that's what they had to do. So she put them in a down stay, which means they had to lay down and stay, and they were not allowed to move unless she released them. And so she was telling me how her one dog was being the culprit, and that he was the bad one that was always initiating the fights. And I looked at her, and I sort of crinkled my forehead, and I said, what? No, it's not him. It's her. She is starting it. She's the one that started this fight. She initiated it. And she said, no, he's always the one. Like, so we started talking about this, and then I explained to her exactly how she was actually getting him to do it. And it was so funny. The moment I totally acknowledged all of that, he got up from his downstay and walked straight over to me and sat in front of me and looked me straight in the face. And she nearly collapsed, because she was like, what? Not only was he acknowledging, thank you so much for actually telling her how things are, number one. Number two, he broke his downstay, which was unheard of in her world. And then it just blew her mind that it was exactly the opposite of what she had assumed. And it changed her relationship to her dogs entirely. But this was just one of those moments that was so kind of cool, because when you get that kind of confirmation from the animal, and again, this is not the animal understanding English, but the animal actually getting the energy of what I was presenting to her as a possibility, and then really acknowledging, like, hell yeah, this is how it goes. Like, I am not the one that starts these fights. My other dog tells me so. And I do what she says, because she's the boss.
Wow. And just the acknowledgement that the dog gave you too, Suzy, it was like, thank you. He was received. He was actually received in a way that would be beyond anybody else's linear kind of training background or comprehension. This is a whole different level to function and to receive energetically from an animal. That's a beautiful story. The relief in his world.
I know. And it wasn't even about animal communication. I was literally just chatting with the woman. I wasn't even trying to talk to him or them, you know. I was just chatting with her about, no, this is how this goes with these two dogs, you know. So this was even way before I started Access, and I had no idea if it had a capacity to chat with animals, you know, how that goes. How many of you have that, where you're like, oh, I don't know how to do this, but you've been doing it your whole life, but you actually just say, oh, I don't know how to do that. Nah, I don't talk to animals. Yeah. I wonder how many of you are here assuming that no, there is no animal communication in my world.
Yeah, and just the fact that you're on this call, the fact that you've registered and signed up, automatically it's like, yeah, you have this desire. You already, so would you be willing to acknowledge where you are already doing this, even if you think you're not? Because acknowledging it is going to allow that muscle to, like you said, Susie, instead of it being atrophied, you're allowing that muscle to be strengthened just purely by acknowledging, like you just did with that dog. You acknowledge something and it changes dynamically. So that's awesome. I had a story I was thinking of was I visited a friend in Norway a few years ago, and she lived on this property that had like maybe a kilometre long driveway to get to her house, and to get up to her house she had to go past this other farm, and they had a team of huskies, because it's Norway. They had a team of huskies, like 26, 30 dogs, literally chained up on a chain maybe 3 feet long and in a kennel, and these dogs never were allowed off the chain, even during winter. And there was one dog that was a golden retriever, and the lady whose house I was staying in, she said, God, can we do something about these dogs? They're driving me mad. They are barking all night. They are barking and howling all night. And so we went down to the garden the next day, and I could hear them, and I said, okay, which one of you guys is the lead dog? And it turned out to be the golden retriever, which was bizarre. And I said, hey, what's going on? What, is there something that we can contribute to these dogs? And these dogs were so despondent. They were just, because they're huskies and they're living in the snow and they're trained, their instinct is to be out and and they've been chained up for like 2 years. They haven't been let off the chain for 2 years. And so I said, okay, well, what can we create? Can we get you, new homes, or can we find you a different owner, or can we find an avenue? Anyway, they were barking and barking and barking, and I spoke to the retriever, and just in my head, not verbally out loud, and all of a sudden, this peace came over the whole pack. And my girlfriends looked at me, and I even thought, oh, it's just a coincidence, I thought, how does that much din and that much noise suddenly dissipate? And every time I heard the pack start up, I would just tap into the retriever and go, hey, what's going on? What are they saying? What do they require? Anyway, it took about 18 months, and slowly but surely, all of these dogs found new homes, because the owners were no, they're my dogs and this is what they're doing, and I'm not letting them go, even though they didn't want to engage them or use them or, enjoy them. And slowly but surely, all of these dogs got to find new homes, and the dog that stayed was the retriever. So it was just a totally different journey for me with animal communication, and just going, hey, what can I contribute? What's going on? Can you talk to the rest of the pack and maybe settle the rest of the pack down? And then it was, okay, guys, can you find a new home? Can you find a new owner? There is a life for you. And yeah, that was quite remarkable, even for me. I've seen some cool stuff, but that was not directly hands-on. That wasn't talking to an owner that was needing help, or even animals. It was just, hey, is there something we can contribute? So she can sleep at night now.
That's awesome. Well, and also what I love about those stories is that often we think that if we see animals in distress, we have to do something, like go and talk to the people, or, spring into action, when really maybe it's not possible, or it might even create something weird. Like, so, had you gone up to the owner and told them, hey, it's not really ethical to have 26 dogs on chains or whatever, they would have to go into reaction about it, and they would have to defend their point of view even more. But by talking to the dogs, it seems totally not logical that all of a sudden, just by asking the dogs to receive a contribution, but also letting you know what is required or what might be going on, all of a sudden energetically a door opens and something new is possible that wasn't possible before. And that to me is also the fun part, is that you don't really know sometimes, or often you don't know what the outcome is of what is being created when you're acknowledging a situation, or you are willing to energetically contribute to something, and you don't know what is going to happen, or you don't even have an agenda. Yes, I'm sure you thought, well, might be nice for these dogs to create something different in their lives, but you weren't like sitting there going, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to organize this and I have to talk to that. You were just being an energy that all of a sudden opened a door for all of these dogs, which I think is, that's also incredible. I think a lot of times when we're choosing to contribute, and that's the thing too, like how many of you have always had that sense of like helplessness with the animal situations that you have seen in the world, and has that also contributed to you to atrophy your muscle to listen to the animals, because you could perceive their distress sometimes, or their uncomfortableness, or you know, everything that is going on in this world with animals. A lot of it is not very kind and very nice, and so how many of you have shut that off because of all of those awarenesses? So will you please acknowledge that too, that you have been shutting that off? Again, you've had it, but you shut it off so you wouldn't have to deal with all of this pain. And yet, what else is possible with that? You know, what could you choose that would change that for you, where that was no longer a relevant piece of it, but really you had a different possibility to contribute an energy, to contribute to a change in these situations that maybe you didn't even think you had the capacity to do?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, I was posting for today's Zoom, and I've just recently taken on 2 new greyhounds to foster and rehabilitate. And I love, one thing I hadn't acknowledged too was how we embody these tools. You know, I'd say most people on this call have done access to some degree, not that you have to come to any of these classes or even to know that you do have this capacity, but to be the space that these animals require that have been traumatized or injured or come from abusive backgrounds with no point of view. You know, it's just a lot of people look at the dogs and they're emaciated, or they're mangy, or they're flea bitten, or they're, you know, they've been really badly treated. And you walk them down the street and you get all these projections from people. And so to be the tools of interesting point of view and not buy into that or defend against it. So the post I was writing about, and you know, for me, when I write, I start to get more awarenesses. And I was writing about how, you know, these dogs, their journeys, they learn to trust, they learn to be, you know, transition into a totally different reality, from being stuck in a cage and racing to, you know, being on the beach or having a kind hand touch them. It's like, and I was writing about the trust and the vulnerability and the gentleness, and I went, wow, that's what these dogs are actually facilitating for me. Because I'm thinking, why do I foster greyhounds? You know, I pay for them, it comes out of my pocket, and it's like, so where's the gift with this? Where's the contribution for me? And writing this post, I went, wow, the whole thing about trust and vulnerability and gentleness. These dogs have come from you know, it's like getting a guy who's been in jail for 35 years of his life and suddenly letting him out into paradise. It's overloading. There's so much going on and so different that it's a massive journey for them to transition, but to have no point of view and to be the space. So yeah, that was a real light bulb moment for me only an hour ago as I was typing this. I went, wow. And that was another level of receiving that I hadn't really acknowledged. I had, but not to that level. So, you know, it's when people say I'm not into animals and I'm not interested in animals and why would I, you know, what would I get? It's like, how do you even begin to put that into words? Because all of this is energetic. It isn't verbal. It's not like we're having a conversation in English. It's just being present enough to receive that and not come to conclusion or make it right or wrong or just try and replicate that with everything. They really do talk about teach you to live in 10-second increments and not have any conclusion in your world. So yeah, what a gift.
Totally. Totally. Well, and you know, I like that. I mean, this time we said, hey, do you speak giraffe? It really goes not just with your pets at home. It is really truly, like Viv was saying earlier, what about the birds in your backyard? What about, you know, the animals that you're surrounded by that are the so-called wildlife in your life? And even if you live in a city, you know, what animals are you surrounded by that maybe you haven't noticed before? And even if you might think those animals are not a contribution, like a pigeon, you know, or a rat, what if you actually had a different communication with them too, and really started to tap into their energy to see, like, what is it that they can contribute to me, even living in the middle of a city, for example. And you know, I wanted to say, because we did talk about giraffe, but you know, and you mentioned the safari thing. We did once do like a talk to the animal safari in Africa, and we came across this animal that was definitely distressed, and ended up dying the next day. And it was so interesting how, you know, we also have all these points of views about death and dying, and animals are very different in all of that. They definitely deal with that in a very different way than we do as people. And that was such a gift to come across an animal that was in distress, but still didn't really have a point of view about the situation they were in, and to really receive that. And the group was really blown away by what they were able to receive from that animal and what they were able to contribute, but also just the communication about death and what that was, and how that was being received. And then also being able as a group to contribute to that maybe being easy for this animal, and then finding out that later that it died not too long after we had been there. So that was really cool too, in a way that, again, it wasn't about trying to figure out how to make it better or to make this animal survive, but really coming more into that sense of like allowing an animal to also share its own, it's not even an experience, and it's not a point of view, but really its own being with death, you know, which is really truly so different from what we have in this world around death, which is mostly a lot of insanity. And I really get that the animals there can also be a huge contribution to us to receive that piece of information in a different way. And you know, yeah, so how does it get better than that?
Suzy, would you talk about, I don't remember the exact details, but you were at a zoo somewhere. Was it the elephants or something turned around and engaged with the group? Can you talk about that? Because that's still, you know, wow.
Yeah, we were in Japan actually, and we went to the zoo there as part of the class, and you know, the elephants definitely gave the whole group the sense of like, oh, I can't deny this, because the zoo in Tokyo was very busy, so there were a lot of people at the zoo when we were there, and we were this group of the, you know, talk to the animals class, and we were standing by the elephants over in one corner, and you know, and there was a lot of people along the fence line, and the animals all came and stood and stared at us like, hi, you know. And it was basically, we were tapping into their energy, asking them some questions, but they all came over and they were like, oh yeah, you want to talk to us? Okay, here it is. And so it was so much fun, and like the whole group was like, huh? And everybody else who was standing at their enclosure was like, what's going on over here? Like, why are these elephants all going over here? And it was really cool to also see like how different animals in the zoo have different points of views about things. There was one elephant that told the group that he would never choose this again, and he wasn't liking this at all. And then there was others that were like fine with it, and there were others that were bored, and like it's just the different nuances. And so even with all that, like it blew people's minds that you can't actually say, oh, all animals are going to hate the zoo, or all animals are going to love the zoo, or all animals are going to, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's really like seeing that animals individually also have certain things that they would like to create in life. And sometimes when that doesn't work out, they can be unhappy, or they can be happy in a situation that we might assume is unhappy for them. and all sorts of things. But that was really fun. And then when we were done with the conversation, they all dispersed again into their little enclosure. And I think that was really the biggest fun that the participants had, was to get that much confirmation from the animals all coming to go, hi, we acknowledge that you're pinging us, that you're asking us to like chat with you. Yep, we are chatting with you now. So,
well, I could listen to that story over and over again, Suzy. It's just, that is an absolute wow moment for me, and for people that, you know, they might be on their journey with this, or like you say, if they're skeptical or they think they're making it up, it's like, well, does it get more obvious? Could it get more obvious than that for confirmation? I love it. Yeah. Yeah. So what's next? What's next?
yeah, what is next? And it's really funny, like I had a person write to me after this last one, and basically they were saying like, oh, you know, this was just another advertising for a class, you know, why didn't you tell us what the animals are saying? I was like, well, that's not what this is about. You know, Viv and I and Monica and whoever is doing this, and even if you are an animal communicator, it is not about you knowing better. It's not about you being the guru of all of this. It's about empowering you guys to actually know what you know about all of this. What do you know about what animals are communicating to you? What is it that you have been receiving your whole life that you haven't yet acknowledged? What is it that the animals have been basically asking you about that you haven't been willing to truly be? You know, so often, like the people that come to class, it's really so much more about awakening that and recognizing that you have done this your whole life, and that it's really more about also the willingness to go, okay, so now what? You know, like Viv was saying that earlier, like, now what? You know, that is my question. Now what? What are you going to do with this? What are you going to step up to? You know, I don't know if you have noticed, but the world is changing quite rapidly. There's a lot of people on this planet, and things are shifting in a very rapid way. And the planet and the animals are asking for the ones of us that are willing to actually create something different. And what can your contribution to that be? And please remember Viv's story from earlier. Your energetic contribution can create a lot. It doesn't have to be that you spring into action, but it could be that you spring into action of certain things, like that you write articles or speak publicly. It doesn't matter what you choose, but what is it that the animals have been asking of you your whole life that you have been ignoring? And would you be willing to actually step into that now? And would you be willing to really go, okay, so what energetic contribution can I be now to the animals around me? And what can I listen to again? And not from the fear of, oh, I'm going to hear all the pain that the animals are in, but really more from that, okay, even if I hear pain, it's okay. I am going to just receive it, and now what?
Mm-hmm.
And really, truly, now what?
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, it is really about being in the question. It is really about being the question, just building that muscle. I haven't found anything. I mean, I work with people, I facilitate people, that's what I do. And to be with animals, it's a whole, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a whole different playground. It's a whole different energetic conversation, because they don't use language, because they don't speak English or French or German. That it is such a unique capacity to fine tune. It's such a unique capacity to play with and have fun with. And, you know, I've had to get over the point of view of I'm going nuts, I'm imagining things, I'm making this up, and just go with it. It's the willingness to be that bloody weird and that different and that beyond this reality. And I just find that the animals are a constant invitation for that. They just help me flex that muscle in a very different way than interacting with people. And we know a lot of people that are animal people much prefer to be around animals, and a lot of people struggle being with people. So, you know, they are such a gift. They are such a gift. So, and what contribution can we be, you know, from this point forward? Great conversation.
And you
can I share something,
Yes,
Suzy?
of course, of course.
Yeah. It's just something that happened this afternoon, which sort of feeds into what Viv was saying. I have a cat that lives next door that comes and visits me. And earlier this afternoon, I was out in the shed putting something away in the shed. Didn't see the cat, but I came back in and I was inside just doing a painting. And then I just got this message in my head, the cat's in the shed. And it was really loud, like in my head, like, come and let me out, sort of, I'm in the shed. And so I went around and checked the shed, and the cat was in the shed. So I let the cat out. So I just think it's being quiet too as well, and being open to receive.
Yeah, and but also just acknowledge it doesn't even have to be that you're quiet. You're just all of a sudden, you know, some people would brush that away and go, oh yeah, that's just a thought that I had. But this is, like you said, you know, all of a sudden to you it was very loud and clear, and that is often times how it is, but we still often brush it away and think it was nothing, you know. And it is about acknowledging that these things are showing up for you in whatever way they do. But that was the one way that the cat came to you and said, hello, I'd like to be let out, please. Now I've had enough of exploring the shed. I did for a couple hours. That was fun. And now I'd like to get out again, please. You know.
Actually, it was probably about half an hour, but I think, yeah, that was obviously enough for the cat.
Yeah, probably a small shed. So
it anyway. Was, yeah, pretty boring. Yeah,
exactly. Boring after a while. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that, because this is really what this is about, is the acknowledgement of the receiving of these messages, and however they show up for you. You know, everybody has a different way of like receiving it, and you have to be willing to acknowledge that. Apparently I said a word that sounded like Siri, and so my phone thought I was talking to it, and it started transcribing what I was saying, and I was like, that's just weird. So see, animal communication, even your phone, you know. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. So anyway, we wanted to keep these really like short and sweet. So we really want to thank you all for being here. We're going to do another one soon. We're rotating them all around a little bit, so we have different time zones for people to join. But please know that, you know, we are so willing and happy to have more of these. And also we do have classes coming up. So yes, there is also the advertising. I totally admit to that, like, is a bad thing, you know, advertising. So there you go. You know, we're not just telling you what the animals are thinking about. No, we're also advertising a class. Shame on us. Anyway, so you know, so there are classes. Please check us out. You know, Monica has a class coming up. Viv and I are doing a class in Australia this year. So please, you know, if you are interested in this, please come and find us. We are on the Access Consciousness website, so accessconsciousness.com. You actually can find Talk to the Animals on there, but also, you know, you can find our names there. And so you can find the classes there with ease. And yeah, so if this is of interest to you, please join us. And again, this is not about you coming to class to have more of this. This is just one possibility, and you have to see what actually is a contribution also to you and your life. We really want to open the door for you to just receiving more from the animals and being willing to flex that muscle again, being willing to receive, even if it is uncomfortable, being willing to have the information that the animals are giving you, no matter what that is, and being willing to be a contribution, no matter what that looks like, and without an agenda. So thank you again so much.
Yeah, and
Thank
I think I
you.
just Leah put in the thread, there's the Talk to the Animals website, and we also have a Talk to the Animals Facebook page. Jump on, share your stories, photographs, whatever, and yeah, what else is possible?
Yeah, and the Talk to the Animals website is finally redone and it looks great. So check it out, talktotheanimals.com. Has a new look, has a new feel, has a new has some more stuff there. Thank you, Leah. Sometimes I'm a bit brain dead. So yes, talktotheanimals.com. Please check it out. Of course, all the tools we are using personally here together are inspired by Access Consciousness and Gary Douglas, who is the founder of this whole part of Talk to the Animals. He started with these tools many, many years ago and realized that they do work on animals too. So here we are using these tools with animals. And that's the modality that we are also using with this to play with. So yay, anything else, you guys? Anything else?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, can I say something?
Yes,
I'm
Uta.
really cheeky because there is a conscious horse, conscious rider class coming up at my place. If you are in Perth or around, it will be an amazing thing to do, and maybe Viv and Suzy might come here too sometime.
Yes,
It's end of March.
Awesome.
Check it out.
Awesome. So Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider is another one of an Access specialty class, basically, and it is dealing also partially with animal communication, but very much focused on horses. So yeah, it's a great class, so much fun. So you also will get a lot of tools there on how to receive very differently from your horse. So much fun and interesting too. So many people that come to those classes, again, go there and they're like, I don't have a horse. I don't know why I'm here. I just knew I had to come to class. And that we often get in these classes too, that people are just like, I have no idea why I'm here. I'm not into animals. I just knew I had to be here. There's an energy here. And see, this is the part again, you speaking with the energy. You are acknowledging that you are just drawn to something and you don't know why. That is energetic communication right there. You know, that is the perfect example of that too. So you will know what your way is to have more of this, you know, and how whatever that looks like, please trust.
yes.
So and
thank you everyone for joining us, and like Suzy said, we've got another one coming up in a couple of weeks that'll be advertised on the Facebook page, and enjoy your animal communication however that looks.
Viv and Suzy, can I just ask a very quick question?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, with the class you mentioned in Australia, is that a 2-day class? And I'm just keen to know, like, what goes on in a 2-day class?
Well, it is a 2-day class, and what goes on in a 2-day class stays in. No, I'm kidding. So the 2-day classes are really fun. We do give you a lot of the tools. We use the tools of Access to start opening the door for you to receive, to really trust you. We give you a lot of tools to really start trusting you in the process. We do some exercises together, and then on the second day, we always on the first day, we will do communication in small groups, also with pictures. So you get to bring the pictures of your pets, and then in small groups, you actually start to talk to everybody's animals, which is really fun. And on the second day, we go to a place that is sort of a neutral place in a way that nobody owns any of the animals that we're going to visit. So it might be a zoo, it might be a shelter, it might be a farm, and we practice with live animals on the second day. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, but it's usually a lot of fun, and it usually goes by way too fast.
Way too fast. And we also have an introduction evening the night before, so this one's going to be a 2.5-day class. So it'll be an evening class for a couple of hours, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on questions, and then that leads into the 2-day So people can come to the intro if they just want to do the intro, and if they want to do the whole two days. And you get a pretty comprehensive manual that's we've played with and tweaked and fine-tuned, and that's the, you know, begin the conversation. And then if there's more, we have written an advanced manual called Creating Greater Possibilities with Animals, or Creating Greater Possibilities. So that will then be a 5-day class, which we're looking to do either in Germany or France, or both, and where else in the world later in the year, because like Suzy said at the beginning, we would love to have more Talk to the Animals facilitators out there. So, you know, we have to get the classes out there so you people can enjoy the class and receive what's possible, and then you've got the choice if that's something you want to do and follow up on. But everything's just choice, everything's just an invitation. So does that answer your question, Tiff?
It does. Thank you. It sounds really fun. And just one other question: do you, in the 2-day class, do you cover any sort of body work stuff with animals, or
Yep.
it's more the communication stuff? You do. Okay,
Yep.
cool.
We do body work
Awesome.
as well a little bit. Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, we put
Sounds
a lot
fun.
into this 2 days for sure, and it's been really fun to facilitate these classes. And I personally have to actually run, because otherwise Hannes is going to kill me, because we do have the facilitators class coming now, and I have to put things into place. But really, truly, guys, you know, we are here for you to play some more. And if you have questions, please reach out to us. It's really, we're happy to really, you know, give you whatever information you would like to have. So, and like I said, I have to personally dash. So I just wanna keep you hanging now, because that's fun. No, I'm kidding, but gots to go, gots to run. I know we can go on forever with these, and yeah, see you all next time. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your questions, and also thank you to all of you that are translating and that are here to support all of this in all the different languages. And just go to talktotheanimals.com for our upcoming schedule, and there will be more classes posted as soon as we find out where we're going. So we'll see you soon somewhere, and we'll certainly hopefully see you again on the next Zoom.
Right, and we just need to finalise dates for Tekla. She just put a question in the chat. Thank you, Suzy. Mwah. Bye. Thanks,
everybody. Thanks, Monica. Bye.
Bye.